In the spring, when kings normally go out to war, David sent Joab and the Israelite army to fight the Ammonites at Rabbah. But he stayed behind in Jerusalem. Late one afternoon, after his midday rest, David was walking on the roof of the palace. As he looked out over the city, he noticed a woman of unusual beauty taking a bath. He sent someone to find out who she was, and he was told,
"She is Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah the Hittite."
Uriah was away fighting in David's army. Then David sent messengers to get her, and she came to the palace. Bathsheba had just completed the purification rites, after having her menstrual period. David slept with her. Then she returned home. Later, when Bathsheba discovered that she was pregnant, she sent David a message, saying,
"I'm pregnant."
Then David sent word to Joab.
"Send me Uriah the Hittite."
So Joab sent him to David. And Uriah left the siege and returned to Jerusalem. When Uriah arrived, David asked him how Joab and the army were getting along, and how the war was progressing. Then he told Uriah,
"Go on home and relax."
David was hoping that Uriah would sleep with Bathsheba, and later think the child was his. But Uriah didn't go home. He thought,
"How could I go home to wine and dine, and sleep with my wife, while my fellow soldiers are living in tents, and camping in the open fields?"
So he slept that night at the palace entrance with the king's palace guard. The next day when David found out that Uriah did not go home, he got him drunk. But even then he couldn't get Uriah to go home to his wife. Again he slept at the palace entrance with the king's palace guard. David's plan had failed. So the next morning, David wrote a letter, and gave it to Uriah to deliver to Joab. The letter instructed Joab,
"Station Uriah on the front lines, where the battle is fiercest. Then pull back, so that he will be killed."
So Joab assigned Uriah to a spot close to the city wall, where he knew the enemy's strongest men were fighting. And when the enemy soldiers came out of the city to fight, Uriah the Hittite was killed, along with several other Israelite soldiers. When Uriah's wife heard that her husband was dead, she mourned for him. When the period of mourning was over, David sent for her and brought her to the palace, and she became one of his wives. Then she gave birth to a son. But the Lord was displeased with what David had done. So the Lord sent Nathan the prophet to tell David this story.
There were two men. One was rich, and one was poor. The rich man owned many sheep and cattle, but the poor man owned only one little lamb he had bought. He raised that little lamb, and it grew up with his children. It ate from the man's own plate, and drank from his cup. He cuddled it in his arms like a baby daughter. One day, a guest arrived at the home of the rich man. But instead of killing an animal from his own flock or herd, he took the poor man's lamb and killed it and prepared it for his guest.
David was furious.
"As surely as the Lord lives,"
he vowed,
"any man who would do such a thing deserves to die."
he must repay 4 lambs to the poor man for the one he stole, and for having no pity.
Nathan then said to David,
You are that man. This is what the Lord says.
I anointed you king over Israel. And I delivered you from Saul. I gave you your master's house and wives. And the kingdoms of Israel and Judah.
And if that had not been enough, I would have given you even more. Much more.
Why then have you despised the word of the Lord, and done this horrible deed? For you have murdered Uriah the Hittite with the sword of the Ammonites, and stolen his wife. From now on, bloodshed shall never depart from your family.
David cried.
I have sinned against the Lord.
Nathan replied,
Yes, but the Lord has forgiven you, and you won't die for this sin. But because you have shown utter contempt for the word of the Lord by doing this, your child will die.
After Nathan returned to his home, the Lord sent a deadly illness to the child of David and Uriah's wife. David begged God to spare the child. He went without food and lay all night on the bare ground. The elders of his household pleaded with him to get up and eat with them, but he refused. Then on the 7th day, the child died. David's advisors were afraid to tell him.
He wouldn't listen to reason while the child was ill.
They said,
What drastic thing will he do when we tell him the child is dead?
However, when David was told the sad news, he got up from the ground, washed himself, changed his clothes, and went to the tabernacle to worship the Lord. After that, he returned to the palace and was served food, and he ate. Then David comforted Bathsheba, his wife, and slept with her. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son, and David named him Solomon. The Lord loved the child and sent word through Nathan the prophet that they should name him Jedediah, which means beloved of the Lord.